podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Okay, Daniel, how's it going?
Tremendous, Edward. How are you?
I hear that you are in the developing nation that is North London, and you have no power.
Yeah, exactly. Whiteout, exactly that. And so I apologise for the sound quality today, everybody.
It'll be fine. Yeah, people will be able to hear you. I had a tech fail. You may have caught. Listeners may have caught the conversation I had with a group called Newcastle fans against sport washing in midweek, where we had a tech fail and decided it wasn't going to record anything. So I just had to rely on the backup. So that was just about okay. Talking of Newcastle, bit crap today, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was also not entirely surprisingly crap, I don't think.
Yeah.
And part of it is we can really just easily explain away and say we don't have Casemiro and we're shit without Casemiro. And we also don't have Eriksen. And that would be a really simple way of saying that. Problem being that, is it 2 more games without Casemiro?
Yeah.
So games that we actually will need some points out of.
Brentford and Everton, yeah.
But also, there's a pattern here that we've been getting crap over the last few weeks. We haven't scored for 3 league games now.
Yes.
Players are tired. They're not going to become any less so.
Yeah, and I think it's only 2 wins in 8 or something like that. It's not a good record recently. So the players clearly are tired.
And we're not good in big away games. I think that is fair to say. We've lost them all, and with good reason.
All very true, yes. I mean, Casemiro clearly makes a big difference. And the fact that he will have missed, I think, 7 and 2 halves Premier League games through suspensions this season could well be very telling at the end of the season. United aren't able to control or screen in the same way, like 2 important things in midfield. And without Eriksen, there's really no one to do the build-up. And that's why I think you saw Bruno in quite a deep position today, basically playing as a left-sided number 8. It didn't work, though, did it? United weren't able to build up from the back, weren't able to build through midfield, tried those long balls that were quite effective against Newcastle in the cup final, but weren't today. And we really created almost nothing today.
I mean, I think we'll be okay for the top 4 because the other teams aren't any good and we are better than they are. But and Casemiro and Eriksen are both coming back. But I think what the only real positive was probably, I mean, I hope that we might have seen the last of Big Wout, because even though we were still crap when Martial came on, we looked like we had a bit more threat, and Wout was crap today again, because
he was dreadful.
He kind of is.
Yeah, during the international break, I think who was it against? It was against Malta? I can't remember. It wasn't one of the games that Weghorst played, and the Dutch journalist asked him if they'd played the game for another 48 hours, would he have scored?
What? Really?
Said, good question. I'm not sure about that. Which was refreshingly honest from both of them, I thought.
I mean, that is such a bizarre question. Ten Hag got a funny question at the end today, where they said something like, "So, do you think that you hope the team will start playing a bit better now?" Just one of those statements that is a question. And
no, I don't think so.
Previously, I think it was before the Liverpool game, he said, "You've answered your own question there." Actually, I don't think it was Liverpool. I think it was a European game. He said he got asked that kind of nonsense, and he said, "You've answered your own question there." But he also had a bad game today, I would say.
Some interesting changes, weren't they? And like he gambled right at the end, obviously going to 3 at the back. Didn't seem to make any difference because United really didn't actually create a chance after that.
But that's
He took a long time to make the changes after a very poor first half, I thought. I wonder whether they were trying to play within themselves for that first half, but it turned out they were just playing badly.
It feels like that is something they've done a little bit this season, particularly because the game's just coming, so many games, that it feels like they've kind of been playing within themselves a lot in first halves and then kind of going for it more in the second half. So, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they tried to stay in the game. And we've actually seen that in some of the big away games where they're quite circumspect at the beginning. And it feels like they do need to show a bit more bronca. But back to the substitutions. I didn't think that Anthony should have been taken off because he had the beating of Burn. The problem was we weren't getting him enough of the ball, I felt. And then the substitutions at the end, it felt like it was a bit long to go to make those kind of changes where you're completely compromising the structure of the team. I would say that sort of last 5-minute activity, that where you just chuck on a bunch of strikers, but also when you take off Martinez, particularly in the absence of Casemiro, how are you going to build up? Who's going to be passing? Yeah. I didn't understand that change. Even if we can sort of understand the formation, I didn't understand why he took off Martinez, who basically is our main passer out from the back, particularly when Eriksen and Casemiro on there. And I'd be interested to hear the rationale for that.
Yeah, I haven't heard it since the end of the game. It was odd taking both the centre backs on and bringing another one on. I couldn't quite work it out. Certainly going to three at the back's okay, and if you play with the full backs, you can at least kind of cover the wide areas and the channels for any overloads. So I mean, like the structure fine, but yeah, taking them both off and Martinez is odd. I mean, United had a problem with build up for the whole game, basically, because you had Fernandes dropping deep into what was basically a 4-3-3, and he's supposed to be the build-up guy there with some protection behind, but you can't play it into the channels because Weghorst doesn't run, and Anthony gets it, but he likes it like wide and from deeper positions. He doesn't run into the channel for the ball over the top, so which meant that Marcus is the only outball and didn't get it to him very often at all. So the whole structure felt a bit odd. It's one of those things where you start seeing the weaknesses in the squad, and Ten Hag has to make compromises to try and cover for it, and it didn't work today. And I think probably tiredness is a problem as well, which we talked about previously, and was always likely to be the case with the amount of games they're playing, and also and the lack of rotation earlier in the season. But it really did feel like it after United went down, and there was no real sudden oomph. You're like, okay, there's nothing in the tank here.
I mean, I also think that Newcastle, I mean, we sure saw some footage of Eddie Howe, and oh my gosh, how absolutely miserable it was to see him happy. But him speaking to the players in the dressing room afterwards, and he said, that was a reward for the work we've done the last 2 weeks. And that, to me, crystallised one of the major differences between the teams, that United haven't had 2 weeks for this. Their players have all been away. Most of Newcastle's players haven't. So they were able to work on a plan for this game and really get grooved into doing what they wanted to do. And to go back to the subs also, I guess I can't decide if I was pleased we were spared or disappointed we didn't get the spectacle of Maguire coming on, lumbering on instead of Lindelof to collect the armband and then come and give us a fronting up interview subsequently.
That should be his role at the club, shouldn't it? Just come and do the apology interview. Yep, that's it, chief fronter-upper. He doesn't have to prove himself at this level after all, so that's what he can do. Back to Eddie Howe, I can't stand his smug face. I really can't. And the fact that he's still refusing to say anything about the ownership, he won't now because he said we know what he is. He's going to pretend that he doesn't know anything. As John heard, who I spoke to him midweek, said that he's been to Riyadh twice now and still doesn't know anything about the country, apparently.
But it's funny because he's so keen to let you know how much he knows about every single other thing. It's just this one thing that he won't know about, that he cannot possibly know about, when he just oozes smug and conceit from every pore of his nappy rash face.
God. Oh, you really want to slap it, don't you?
It looks like someone already has.
Yeah, it's so grim, really. His personality, the total denial about what is happening, the fact that it's always just the hard work. That's the only thing. That's the only reason that Newcastle have gone from relegation fodder. Oh, and tactical genius, sure, yeah. There was. I want to talk about their lap of honour after the game as well, because that was quite a spectacle. I mean, it didn't half smack of small time when they were walking around the pitch, basically like they'd won their cup final, which I guess they think they have after they actually lost their cup final. Very, very odd. So,
and I mean, there were that photos in the dressing room afterwards. That kind of team photo. I guess if it works, it works. But it seems strange that you wouldn't be encouraging your players to just look at that as another game. congratulate yourselves on having won it. Obviously, it's a big thing, still a big thing to be United, but the posing for photos, I don't know, just that seems to me to be something that comes not where you beat this version of United when they're not your rival. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to police their celebrations particularly. I want to police their brutal owners. But yeah, it did seem quite weird.
I think they're doing one of those all or nothing documentaries, aren't they, at the moment as well, which is, I'm sure we'll get to see lots and lots of total denialism or propaganda when that one comes out. By the way, talking of which, sorry for the diversion, but did you see the performative nonsense from Aaron Ramsdale in the Arsenal all or nothing clip that came out this week, where he's so gutted and had to be consoled about conceding a goal in a 4-1 win?
Oh man. The thing is I was about to start insulting him, but he might also be all right, I think. I mean, he's obviously not all right in the world of football, but I can see the number one, to be a goalkeeper, you do need to be slightly weird, and he is slightly weird, and you do need this obscene confidence in yourself. And he's sort of a Casillas goalkeeper, where things just hit him. He seems to almost be diving out the way of them, and somehow they collide with his ludicrous face, which happened in the Sporting game, I think, that I was out for work, where he comes out and he gets beaten, except he doesn't get beaten because it clocks him in the physic. But I do not like Aaron Ramsdale. He goes about like he's this big figure in the game.
Yes.
But I guess I'm sort of hoping that he's going to be the goalkeeper of the league champions, and what state of affairs that is.
Deary me. He's obviously got massive Joe Hart vibes about him, and I mean, maybe that's just as you say, the weirdness. I mean, David De Gea does not have that at all. Whatever the opposite of big Joe Hart vibes is, David De Gea gives that off instead, and he's kind of a shrinking violet, isn't he?
Little Chris Turner.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. What did you think about Newcastle's first goal, by the way? Because that was a cross. It was very close to him. Too much to say he could have got a hand on that?
It's hard to say, isn't it? But we're obviously all thinking it, because like both their goals came from balls flash in his 6-yard box. It felt like the first one, he followed it to the back post, even though he had no chance of getting it, and the guy, and it was only coming back across, because there was no way. I can't remember who headed it back, but he wasn't heading for goal there. And it felt like, it was just St. Maximin. If he stayed where he was, he might have been able to get the knockback. The cross itself was flat and fast. It was a good goal, in fairness. I mean, terrible from us, both goals, but their bits that they did for both the goals were done well and properly. But you just can't help but notice, even if it isn't his fault, thinking, would a different goalkeeper have managed to affect this in some way? Again, like, he wouldn't be the first player I'd change, because I think that a midfield player and striker are more important, and a right back probably, but I would like to change him too.
Yeah. Interesting, this week it came out that he turned down United's contract offer. I'm presuming it is a significant reduction. And Ten Hag may be making that calculation too, that there are things he needs to change before he changes De Gea. It is odd though, because like if you look at De Gea's numbers this season, everything is on the downslope. I mean, obviously he never claims a cross, and his pass completion rate is pretty awful, and he goes longer than anyone else because Ten Hag doesn't trust him to play out from the back. And there were a couple of moments today, weren't there, of squeaky bum time when he gets the ball at his feet. But his save percentages are falling too, even though he made a couple of excellent saves, double save in the first half, really important. Another one near the end of the game, pushed it onto the crossbar. But his overall numbers are not great this season. He looks now like a bottom half of the Premier League keeper, not a top half of the Premier League keeper, let alone the worldie that we'd like to have there. So, yeah, a big call if they decide to keep him, which they appear to be doing, because it's cheaper than shelling out 70 million on Diogo Costa or whoever it is that would be the replacement.
Yeah, I mean, David Raya is quite good as well. I think probably be a cheaper option. But it depends. We obviously we don't know what's going on with the ownership either, so we don't know how much money is going to be available. I mean, if the worst happens and we get bought by Qatar, we can probably have whatever we want.
Yeah, oh, for sure.
It'll just be hollow and dead and appalling.
Yes. It was interesting. And by the way, I encourage everyone to go have a listen if you can stomach it after today's result. But talking to the John Hurd in midweek, how he's approached it, because we're all going to have these questions to answer, probably, right? Let's be honest. The likely outcome is Qatar win this bid, and you can take the Eddie Howe route and just pretend you don't know anything. And I would say that's going to be 75% of Manchester United supporters, maybe more, and just not be bothered. Or you can kind of make the argument that has been made, which is, well, we'll change them, which is obviously nonsense. And John said, yeah, that's obviously nonsense. Or you can walk away, which I'm sure there will be many fans doing that. I'm sure if former host Paul was on this pod right now, that's what he'd say. He just wouldn't feel like he could bring it to support the club. Or you can do what John did and start a campaign, and someone's got to provide that counterweight, right?
So what does the campaign do? What's the aim of the campaign?
His aim is to keep the conversation in the spotlight, because he believes that the only way of ending what he believes is a cascading effect of sport washing states coming into the game. He said the only way to stop that is a grassroots campaign. Now, it feels like he is pissing into the wind there, for sure. And that it'd be very easy to have a cynical take and go, you can't do anything about it. But that's what he's trying to do with a few other supporters. And this week they put out a press release with Manchester United supporters who are against sports washing and the potential Qatari takeover. None do me, so some other fans who want to keep that campaign in the media and put pressure on their local politicians and on the independent regulator when that comes in, and the Premier League, to say that state wealth has this awful distorting impact. And yeah, it's likely to get worse from here, because once Qatar have two clubs, Saudi may want two clubs, so may Abu Dhabi, so may someone else. And, what we're going to end up with, networks of either states or multi-club corporates playing each other, basically, in one format or another.
Deciding what happens. Aside from just the playing each other, there'll be if they have a critical mass of clubs, they'll be taking decisions. And it's just one of those things, because the reason why this one just feels so hopeless is that, because always with the Glazers, there's always the hope that at some point maybe they'll leave, or that what they do is not so immoral that it's not possible to enjoy United being good under them. Whereas this is kind of, I probably will knock it on the head if Qatar take over, and just the prospect of that, of having no more Manchester United in my life, is obscene. And I don't really understand exactly how I might cope with that situation, but it doesn't feel like, to me, like I'd have too many options. I mean, that having United taken away from you forever just feels like more or less the last thing I want in my life. And it feels desperate. Well,
sure, yeah.
This time, no one really seems to care that much. There's nothing, like, no one's really protesting this in advance of it happening. And I feel the same about Mason Greenwood, that it feels like something atrocious is in the works and no one's doing anything to stop it. And when it becomes a fact, it will be too late. Whereas Mason Greenwood actually feels like something that, if there was enough fuss in advance, that might be something that we could stop. But no one's doing anything, and there'll come a point where there'll be facts on the ground. If Ten Hag decides he wants to keep Greenwood, and it does seem like that is the case, like Matt Hughes sort of wrote for the Daily Mail, wrote that. I've heard that too, that the club would get rid, but the manager thinks is happy to work with him. We should be protesting that now. And all the other thing and then if we go back to Qatar, in particular, I mean, it's really just a really simple thing. Do we want United to be synonymous with abusers and thugs? Yes or no?
And I thought you put it really well on Twitter yesterday when you said we're sleepwalking into this. And is that what we want? Yeah, it is really simple. And we we have so much experience with this now, like understanding what the sports washing playbook is. And I mean sports washing in the broadest sense. And weaponizing fans is very much part of that playbook. And getting the media to both sides a controversial issue is very much part of that playbook. And giving a permission structure for people to continue like supporting, quote unquote, the club, now the propaganda arm of the Qatari state, if that's what happens. Like it's a playbook that's well known and we're well versed in it, but it works. It works very well. And just look at what's happened with Newcastle and weaponizing the fans there. They are so desperate. In fact, it maybe even works even better when you have a club that has historically had a lack of success because the fans are so desperate for it.
They'll take anything.
As John said, they'll take anything. And he said, like, they feel like they're being victimized when anyone questions the ownership because they feel like it's an attack on them. And so they go to war.
We've waited so long for this. It's just, lads, I understand. They should never have been in that Mike Ashley situation, but no football club has the right to success. It's our turn, and people are ruining it for us. No one has the right to anything. What I find surprising is also that fans of other clubs don't really seem to care. And the reason why they should care isn't for us, isn't because poor Daniel Harris and Ed Barker want to be able to enjoy United's success without feeling guilty. It's that if you've got City, Newcastle and United owned by nation states, then that is bad news for anyone else that it has Danes on winning titles or getting into the Champions League. United plus state wealth is awful for the competitive balance and awful for every single other club, not just in England, but in the world. United's financial might
100%.
And commercial power and state wealth. You do not want this. You do not want it at all. But no one.
That's right, and there should be every single fan of every single club should be against that, including United fans. Obviously, I think that I know that I'm in the minority there. Well, I sense that's probably the case. But you're right. United will be able to benchmark sponsorship, every type of sponsorship, against the highest in the world, because in many cases, United's has been the highest in the world, and the commercial machine has slipped back. And they will be able to funnel state wealth through local sponsors at the highest benchmark. So expect, and obviously there'd be much money put into infrastructure to increase the revenue there. So you can expect it won't be that long either before United are able to blow other clubs out of the water financially. And in fact, that was the policy. We know it now. That was the whole point. The destabilizing impact of the Neymar purchase was to make the pool in which some clubs are fishing as small as possible, right? So you raise the bar for wages and fees everywhere, and it makes it as hard as possible to compete. And that's what United would be able to do. And then it just comes down to the management props, corporate management props, that is, of the owners. And I mean, there's not a great record there at PSG, let's be honest. And
the difference there is that you might have
Sheikh
the right
Jassim
manager.
was. Well, yeah, there's competent manager, and that does make a difference. But yeah, this is not good for football at all. And there's nothing in the white paper on the independent regulator that will stop this. That's all. The only thing I think that could stop it is enough grassroots support, like the Super League, which, as you say, doesn't appear to be happening, or UEFA. But I think Seferin's interview a couple of weeks ago has raised the white flag. They're not going to do anything.
Yeah, I think the only way we stop this is if the other clubs make enough of a fuss. And that's really the only hope that I have, I think, at this point. That the things that we're saying other supporters should be worried about, their owners who have a financial vested interest in that, they will be worried about it, and they will make a fuss, I hope, I imagine.
But what's the bigger thing they're going to fuss about? Because that happened with Newcastle as well, right? And in the end, what happened was, yes, no one wants another club there competing for a Champions League spot. But secretly, FSG, the Cronkies, even Clear Lake at Chelsea, because they will want to, that's the model, right? They are majority owners in that consortium. They want out. That's the whole point about private equity. West Ham's up for sale, may go to the guy from the Czech Republic who's partial owner, has an option on it. Everton are up for sale. Spurs, because it's ENIC, are always up for sale. And Joe Lewis is like 90 odd at the moment. They all want an exit as well. And if it's not American private equity, it's state wealth that are their best, most profitable exit routes. And so I think they're going, well, competition for European places, not good, but hey, we don't actually want to put a block on state wealth because that reduces the competition to buy our club at a later point. And I think that's the tension. It seems to be falling on the latter. And so I don't expect Premier League clubs to vote against United. And they couldn't anyway. I mean, Newcastle was waved through, so what are they going to do? That one was okay, but this isn't. It's all very grim, Daniel.
I mean, yeah, I said this when we beat Newcastle to Wembley, that enjoy this one because it might be the last one that doesn't come with an asterisk.
Yeah. Oh, it is depressing stuff. I don't know where I'd be on this. I've compartmentalized the Glazers for 18 years. Been very consistent in my analysis and opposition right from the right at the beginning. So, you can go back and see the archives that weren't deleted by internet provider at one point. And it's like kind of one thing compartmentalizing shitty owners, because that's what they are. But shitty owners with even worse motives, that's a really hard thing to do. I don't know where we'll be at, but I guess we'll find out and have to make those decisions in the months to come, won't we?
Yes, but as I said, we have to try and do something now, except there is literally nothing that we can do. But I do, as I said, I do think that we could do something about Mason Greenwood. If there's enough, if there's a fuss in the ground and banners in the ground about Mason Greenwood, then that might encourage the board to say no to the manager. Because yes, the idea that we're soon in a situation where we're thinking, where are we going to play him? That these conversations are imminent. Like you can see it now. The Tier for them MUTV interview. And I'm not saying that nobody can be rehabilitated either. I think what I'm just saying is that you don't have the right to play for Man United, and the behaviour is enough for that privilege to be removed. Go somewhere else, rehabilitate yourself. Like this will follow you around forever. But I think it's also, it's almost like feels a little bit selfish, this one, because he'll go somewhere else. And I feel like I'm sort of saying, I just don't want it anywhere near this thing of ours, and go and be near this thing of someone else's, which, is not entirely logical, is it? Or entirely moral of us or me to be saying that and thinking that, because it doesn't alter what he did. But I am still thinking, I don't want you anywhere near this thing of ours.
Yes, unfortunately, football is such a cynical industry that he will continue playing. Unless United said, well, you've got 3 years on your contract, you're going to sit that out, rossing away, not playing at all, which would be a very bold move, but one that they could have made already if they were going to do that. So I suspect that is not what's going to happen. Awesome. Great stuff. Nothing to talk about on the nothing else, no more details on the takeover front this week. I guess the due diligence process is taking place and there's some brinkmanship over who's going to win out. And there's only 3 options, isn't it? It's Qatar, Ineos, or a partial Elliott funded buyout of the Glazer, the 4 Glazer siblings that don't want to be involved. Those are our options. They're all bad. Some are less bad than others. And yeah, that's where we're at. But I guess I saw one report saying they didn't expect this to be completed before May or June. That sounds about right to me. This kind of process takes a long time. It is taking a very long time compared to the Chelsea bid, but that's probably about right. No question about that. It's supported by you, our listeners, through patreon.com/NQAT pod, where you can get access to our weekly ad-free bonus episode talking about football around the Premier League and Europe. We got a game in midweek then, home to Brentford. That's a must-win, I guess, isn't it? Now that United lost 3rd place and are now fourth, and can't really afford to slip up anymore.
No, yeah, we need to find a way of winning that game, which I guess we should be capable of. Brentford aren't a bad team, but I think that Luke Shaw's interview talked about the lack of effort, lack of passion, whatever, and Ten Hag agreed. I'd be very surprised if they were so wet again. Because I think generally when you get a performance like that, you do get a reaction. So I would expect us to win that game in midweek. But it is another game.
Yet another game. Yeah, there aren't any breaks until United are out of one of the competitions somewhere.
Graham Potter's been fired.
Oh, has he? Wow. Not surprising, given how bad the results are, but surprising in that they seem to be making all the public announcements that he'd be around for the long term. Nagelsmann or Potter to Spurs then? See, he should have gone to Spurs in the first place, Potter, really. It seems more like his club.
I mean, Chelsea is not one that you would choose, but I guess he knew that his stock might never be higher, so he didn't really have options but to take that job. But there were probably other jobs he'd have preferred.
Yeah, with less chaos. More like the Brentford kind of situation, in that they're super data heavy, long-term vision, play within their budget, have a wealthy owner, but trying to build things, quote unquote, the right way. And yeah, they've done pretty well this season. What are they, 7th at the moment? Good game against Brighton. Just recently, a 3-3. They got some players. I mean, obviously, Ivan Toney's got 17 this season now. Good forward, like a lot of what he does. David Raya, they've got the kind of complete opposite of David De Gea, a very proactive keeper who just loves using his feet. I mean, he's very, very good with his feet.
I mean, De Gea does love using his feet, but just
not well
to save things.
Yeah. So, yes. And I like what they got in midfield as well. Damsgaard probably not kicked on as well as... He was excellent, wasn't he, in the Euros when he replaced Eriksen, basically. Probably not kicked on as much as some people thought he might, but he's had a pretty good season. Norgard in midfield, all energy. They press from the front, kind of thing that United have struggled with it today, the Newcastle press. And so I think we know what kind of game we'll get. I guess the question is, from United's point of view, like, how many changes will there be? Are they going to freshen things up? Does Martial come into the side now?
Yes.
Now he's fit. He should do, shouldn't he?
Yes, immediately. He just offers so much more. He can hold the ball. He can run with the ball. Might score a goal. He might. And these are things like Wout. Does Wout have a league goal yet? He doesn't, does he?
He's got 2 in 19.
Yeah,
and
but one against Forest and one against Betis.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Amazing stuff. About if you play the rest of the season, will you score a league goal? So, yes. Anyway, Martial should come in. He made United better. His problem is that obviously he's never fit. And when he is fit, it's a 9 out of 10 performance or a 2 out of 10 performance and very little in between. But you saw immediately, he didn't have a big impact today, but he immediately ran into the channels, didn't he, to create extra space. And yeah, I'd expect him to come in.
He was able to bring the ball out as well when he got on the ball in United's area. I mean, he set an attack in progress again, which is just something that Big Wout doesn't seem capable of.
Well, that's it with Wout. That's the other weird thing with Wout, because the only argument for having him in the side is that he helps bring others into play, but he barely touches the ball. So I'm just going to look up his numbers today, because I'm going to say he probably touched the ball 20 times or something. He touched the ball 10 times. There you go. 10 times. He came off on an hour. So, yeah, let's say, let's average it out over the 90. It'd have been about 15. I mean, it's desperate, isn't it? So, is it really worth it for those 15 touches? So, yes. And then I guess the other question is, in midfield, does Fred come in as a slightly more attacking option than McTominay or Sabitzer, one of the two?
I didn't mind that we played McTominay and Sabitzer today, because I felt like I wanted to see if Sabitzer would be the better of I say best, which obviously an advised term, the best of the Casemiro replacements. And I felt like McTominay came into this game with a bit of momentum. I mean, obviously he then didn't continue it, but it felt like the sensible thing to try and use it.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's fair enough. I mean, you do think McTominay would have a better career outside of United? The arguments for keeping him as a squad player are sound. He is a player that will give you a certain level of performance, but he starts way too many games for United. Oh, well, maybe not this season, he hasn't, but historically he has. And you kind of, if you think about what he produced for Scotland in midweek and the fact that he can score from midfield, you've given that sort of license not being played at 6, you'd think he'd have a good career for a European chasing mid-ranked side. wouldn't you? But for United, it's really worked out. So we'll see. I wouldn't be surprised to see Fred in there as a slightly more progressive option. And I don't know whether Sancho did enough today in his 30 minutes or so to warrant any. Yeah. So and I do tend to agree with you. I think Anthony actually carrying the ball is very useful for United, and so he probably came off too. So yeah, those are the kind of changes I'd expect. And I guess Bruno in more of a natural number 10 role than he was today, pushed a bit further forward. Seeing him collect the ball on the edge of his own box. It's okay being the build-up guy, but you got to build up to someone, and there was no one there to build up to for United, so I'd expect that as well. Those are probably the changes, aren't they?
Yes, I think Fred is just we know we have these players who aren't without virtue but aren't good enough, and I think that one of Fred and McTominay will probably leave in the summer because assuming we sign a midfield player, someone will need to go because there just isn't the room in the squad. There won't be enough games, particularly given that. I mean, I'm not sure what we'll do with Mainu and Iqbal, but the fact that we're bothering to teach Iqbal a new position suggests that the powers that be think that he is good enough to play for United. And Mainu also looks like he's good enough. It's just a shame those two guys are just a little bit younger than we'd like them to be.
Yeah.
We're going to end up signing someone to play their position to go in front of them when in a year they might be good to go.
That's right. Yes, I think they're a year away. At least, and they could do with some game time. Ten Hag seems to be a coach that likes to keep some of these players around him, the ones he wants to have a look at. So Pellistri didn't go out and learn again. Neither Mainu or Iqbal have gone out on loan. A few have done, but it seems like the ones he kind of believes in or thinks may have an option, he wants them. He'd rather have them training with the squad than playing away. Of course, they have done loans where they have the kids come back to train as well. And that kind of arrangement can work as well. Of course, when United's taken over by the Qataris and become part of a multi-club model, then that will be the route, I suppose, sadly. But yes, I agree. Mainu and Iqbal both look like they have the kind of raw materials to make a career for themselves at the top end. I don't think either are ready yet, honestly. I see all the same clips that you guys do as well on YouTube and stuff like that, the highlight reels, and I think they're probably a bit misleading for being at Premier League level, but yeah, soon.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know, but I feel like what we saw after we beat Newcastle, Ten Hag making a beeline for Mainu, where you could kind of see it looked like he was saying, this is going to be you, like, look at this, you could have this. And it felt like you don't do that unless you think the player's got something.
There you go. I just noticed that Brendan Rodgers has been sacked as well. How did I miss that?
That was earlier. It's been quite a day.
Quite the day. Yeah. So we've got Spurs, Chelsea and Leicester all looking for a manager. And Ollie is sitting out there needing a job as well. There you go. Okay, I guess that's it for now. We'll catch you in midweek. Dan has no power in his house, so backers will see you in midweek instead. Now, thanks for listening, and good luck United on Wednesday.
Please.
If you like the show, the way you can support us best is by leaving us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts. And it really doesn't matter what you say in that review either. You can say you'd rather we talked about Manchester City and Liverpool. Just hit those 5 stars. Many thanks.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.